start the meeting. It's 6:12 on November 21, and we're starting our November annual planning meeting for the EC. Like I said, please get up and get more snacks or do whatever you need to do as we're having our meeting. This does not need to be super formal. Again, the goal of tonight's meeting, amongst a few other bits and bobs, is to talk about next year. So hope y'all are excited about it and have some ideas, and I'll happily hear from you on this. Okay, so kicking off, I think we've got quorum. Look at us. It's a small but noble group. And
It's
yeah,
bring food and you get a quorum.
you know what, that's kind of what's counting on, so I'll take it. December's got a lot to hold up to. But yeah, we can do a roll call then if you're ready for it.
Yeah, Gary Albright,
I'm present.
Matt Colby,
Here.
Shannon Gate,
Here.
Mike Litwin,
Here.
Adam Martinez,
Here.
Mitchell Owens,
Here.
David Parkhurst,
Here.
Corinna Tankersley,
Here.
Nadia Kane is absent, and Gabby Robles sent in her resignation today for those that didn't see the email. So all 8 of us are here.
Okay, well, thank you.
Oh, and then Fiona Kilgore and Rachel Johnson are here.
Awesome. That's okay. All right, so Corinna, oh, this is, oh yeah, that's okay. Corinna sent around the minutes for this last month's meeting. I don't know if you heard back from anyone, but we've had a chance to take a look at them, so.
I thought they were fine and move we accept them.
Second.
Awesome, all right.
And Matt, you seconded it.
Mhm.
Thank you. Matt Colby,
Yes.
Shannon Gate,
Yes.
Mike Litwin,
Yes.
Adam Martinez,
Yes.
Mitchell Owens.
Yes.
David Parkhurst.
Yes.
Corinna Tankersley.
Yippee.
Gary Albright.
I vote yes.
Motion passes.
Perfect. Do we have anybody from the public joining us for this particularly interesting visual of the EC?
We do not.
Okay, thank goodness for that. Okay. All right, so we've got on old business, just a couple check-ins in case there are any updates from the group as far as things that are going on, anything like that. So for this, it's pretty informal. If you've got anything to share, we can start with the water quality group.
Nothing too much going on. We'll send a couple emails trying to get some ideas together for brainstorming today, like getting priorities together for next year, but.
This is the right time to do it with Jana. Anything for biodiversity? Any thoughts you have on kind of working the track?
I have still yet to be able to pull a biodiversity working group meeting together since before the summer, so there's no new updates for me, kind of just the same old, same old.
I think it's probably worthwhile as we move to the special projects piece, probably noteworthy that into the fall, things seem to get pretty busy just with like various schedules and things like that, because special projects, I'm not gathered this either, so all working groups, will get a little makeover and a refresh, but I appreciate people being, interested in keeping those going, even if it's a little baby steps. We will go ahead and move on then to the new business. So before we get into the planning stuff, we've got Rachel here with the meeting schedule, which I believe you've sent around.
Yes, so this is in the packet. I can zoom out. And I printed out a couple of packets too that should have the agenda in there. But these are just the dates. I can add things, special topics to the schedule. So for like February, we talked about doing kind of a 101 meeting for new members. March, we talked about doing officer elections, and I noted that we rescheduled this, I think, a week late because of the IU spring break. June 26th, we rescheduled because Juneteenth falls on a Thursday, so city government will be closed. So I think it's the following week. And then November is our annual planning meeting. So I think that's what we've talked about previously, but again, happy to add maybe later on for like the working group updates and like adding the presentation dates to this. But I just wanted to provide this, so if there were any dates that were immediately no, we could figure it out sooner than later. Did all these dates, for those that had a chance to review, did they all work out okay? I think it's usually the third Thursday besides the June and March meetings.
Yeah. I think that sounds good, and we were kind of commenting on how, depending on the size of the EC, especially in the next few months, as we're getting new commissioners appointed and things like that. If we need to reschedule, that's just something that we'll talk about as a group, see if there's a better fit for it, whether it's a different week of the month or a different day. But it would just be figuring out where we can have that meeting if we need to reschedule. So feel free to shout it out. Each and every one of you are important to the EC. So as you're able to be here, we would love to have you. So yeah, feel free to raise your hand if you're like, my family's out of town. Any chance people, will be open to rescheduling? We can talk.
I know I'm gonna be out for the January meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Moving it is not going to help because the 16th is my partner's due date. So.
Oh,
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just not gonna be here.
maybe a few Zoom meetings after that.
Priorities.
Sounds good. Well, great. Any other thoughts or questions about the schedule?
Does that require a vote today, or is that just
No, it's just presentation.
awesome?
Well, I'm gonna do my best to take bites between talking points, but the three main things that we want to talk about are one, goals for this coming year, and that would be really specific things that we know we want to be able to deliver on in some way or another, whether it's just being able to check off for ourselves and say, I think we've accomplished whatever that was. We've made it to X milestone that we have for this bigger goal. Or whether it's like writing a report, delivering something to council, something like that. But either way, the goal is to have this first point be about really concrete things that we can do as a group. Having said that, this is the part where we can just kind of chime in. What I was thinking I would do is make 3 columns for those 3 different bullet points of this year goals, 3 to 5 year sort of bigger picture goals / priorities we work towards, and then active working groups, specifically kind of as we're brainstorming the first 2 active working groups that would correspond to those, and then we can solidify after. That sound okay? I assume this marker works. This is gonna really mess up my presentation. 2025. Different colors. Oh, you are so wonderful. That is so my house. Okay. So this is then 3 to 5 year sort of, like the overarching north stars of the PC. And then the last one is, working groups. Again, that one would be as they correspond to this. We don't need to brainstorm working groups or anything like that. So we can, how do you want to do it? We can go like person by person, where typically like the newer person would start just because they might have, some fresher ideas. Then we go through by tenure. We can go around in circles. We can have people chime in. What do people want to do?
Probably volunteer.
You said,
Yeah, I mean, that way you don't catch people in bites either. You raise your hand.
Chime
you're
in,
ready.
yeah. Mitchell has something to chime in.
Yeah, I can chime in, like I
I'd
said.
love to hear.
For the water quality working group, we were just kind of brainstorming and I had thoughts, for next year. I feel like next year for that working group, there's stuff you can do, but there's not a whole lot of deliverables. I think the like big water quality report thing that's been my goal with this is probably more of a 3 to 5 year thing right now, just because like I've got as much of the secondary data as I can, but since like utilities is going to do monitoring in the city next year, I feel like that's something we would want to incorporate into any kind of report, because it wouldn't be useful to write it without that, like all the recommendations would just be, we need to do monitoring ourselves, right?
And then the next year would be update the thing that we just
Yeah.
did, and yeah.
So I know next year, I think water quality working group is still want to be active, because there's still things to do with like keeping tabs on like what's utilities doing, how we can. And I think the other thing is continuing Mike's work with having the planning department on the street buffers thing. And that was something where I sent an email about, like, if we have ideas, that would be good to throw in an undergraduate research project. This was one of the things I had in mind for that, because this seems like something that would be potentially good. Something that needs like a data collection and analysis, but that I don't think any of us have the time to do, but something with like actually looking at the stream buffers. what like, the difference between what they propose and what we have said they should do and compromise plans, like what do those actually all look like in practice?
Yeah.
Is something that I think would maybe be like a good deliverable for next year that we could try and bring in.
What if,
Someone could.
what if I put like a little asterisk next to anything that requires something outside the EC, so like bringing in somebody without being able to kind of note that? So what are all the contacts I'm kind of by that, I'm implying like talking, like being in touch with like the city utilities and stuff like that. But then stream buffer next step, sounds like that might be where we try to get external support or whatever. Let me pull asterisks out. What other shots?
Yeah.
It can be for 2025, it can be for the 3 to 5 year, whatever. Rolls across your brains.
I wanna. Rachel's expressed before that we could do habitat connectivity plan reworked, possibly using. Some of the city resources, sort of like when they were marking where on the streets you felt safe or didn't feel safe type of deal.
Yeah.
I would really like to see the mapping take off and with a friendlier system than what we currently have. We might be able to accomplish that, so I think that'd be a great 2025 target.
For this one? So, remapping. Plan.
Yeah, I don't think the plan requires any rewriting or anything, we just come up with a blurb and a better map, and that way we'll get more participation.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Maybe some publicity related to that as well, so people know about it.
What other thoughts?
So this is going off of publicity. Rachel and I have been talking about like potential social media campaigns to run through the EC. Something that I was thinking is beginning to like transition pamphlets. I come across some pamphlets that you guys have put together in the past, and making those into more like Facebook posts that could live on the Facebook and people could like access through there. I was also thinking that we could do like seasonal ones, we could make one about composting or like beekeeping or just kind of informational things that people could find and like have access to on the Facebook page. Also thinking that something that might be fun is doing seasonal commissioner highlights. So that would be of you guys just like talking about I don't know, I was thinking we could do like favorite summer activity around Bloomington or like, you know, kind of silly little things like that, just to let the community know who you guys are and kind of the work, more of the work that the EC is doing. I think that there's a lot of people who'd be interested in having access to the knowledge that you guys have. I've been very consistently impressed about all of the environmental stuff that you guys know about Bloomington, so I think just thinking about ways to share that with the public would be really helpful for the EC.
I love it. It sounds like, so I put it on the 3 to 5, so I think that like as a bigger direction, that sounds really great, like include stuff about commissioners, so that we're people that, you know, folks that people know. And informational materials for this coming year. Do you have any recommendations on like maybe specific things you wanna go for?
I was thinking I mean, that's kind of more up to you guys. I think, once we figure out a plan, then we can kind of work backwards of what makes sense given the goals that we have. So, you know, if the habitat connectivity is definitely something that is a big priority, then we can start focusing, and like making posts about, I don't know, another thing that I was thinking for that in particular is like a guide to plants that you can plant in your yard that would be, you know, that are native and stuff. Could be like a biodiversity thing. So kind of just based on whatever we decide to prioritize.
And something else Fiona and I talked about, I think that we talked about it at least, setting aside like 5 minutes every meeting to say, okay, what would the social media concept for the next month be?
Okay.
You talked about that. didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And going off of that, so I also think that there's a lot of, I'm sure that as environmentally conscious people, there's a lot of stuff that comes up, either articles or just other posts that we've seen, so kind of including that maybe in the report section of each meeting, just if there's anything that anyone is interested in creating it to a post or just like adding onto the Facebook throughout the month. That would be good.
Cool, thanks for thinking about that. Thoughts from other folks? Yeah, Mike.
This is late because I won't be here, but, I kind of echo what Mitchell and Matt suggested. But along with the stream buffer issue, something that was mentioned in the comprehensive plan is the stream inventory. So we can determine which streams are most critical to being protected.
That's great, yeah, yeah, the fact that they didn't have that mapped out for all the students is. Explore.
Is that a 2025 or a longer term?
Either one.
I could see that something that could be like roped in as part of the project if we could, like some for a research thing, or it could be its own standalone.
Just imagine it was a big undertaking, so maybe.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it could be a big undertaking, or it could be one of those things where a lot of the work is already done, we just need to like find those data.
I will say,
We actually get a grant.
I will say for the stream inventory, the GIS does have like products where it lists out streams, but it's not 100% accurate because it's based off of aerials. And so it would also require somebody to actually go into private property and, you know, map things out and determine whether it's something that's actually a stream. So
Yeah.
it's something we're grappling with now too.
We use some of that for work, conflict finding sites, and then there's something that's supposed to be on the screen, and we go there, and it's not even like a ditch, it's just a field,
Yeah,
so.
That's really good, a really good one. One thing I was thinking about is, and I'm not sure, Rachel, if you have an idea of how the ECPC is able to move forward in the future. But one thing that I really liked about the ECPC, the Environmental Commission Planning Committee.
Well
Is it rolls off the tongue also that, I really appreciated the opportunity to understand what kinds of developments are happening in the city and be able to have our voices included in notes that would be considered for, you know, variances and things like that. That felt like, when I was on the ECPC a long time ago, that felt really good. That felt like something where I understood what was happening in the city, and I felt like we were able to shed light on things and have creative solutions and things like that. I think one thing that, as we look at our commission and all the wonderful folks who are on it, we think about new folks that would be joining. I think about all of the knowledge that we have, but also all the knowledge that we don't have. I mean, I'm not a city planner. I have never been, you know, an arborist, or I'm not a water specialist, like I'm not any of those things, but I would love to be able to give informed feedback as we're looking at things like development in the city. So my thought is, if we are able to explore the ECPC resurrection or some version of that, I really like the idea of us kind of figuring out how to learn more and kind of like share with each other, teach each other, train each other, and be able to be more informed as we're working on these different projects, because I don't want it to be that we always turn to Mitchell for water or Brenna for bees or whatever. I would really love it if we all felt like we were also learning and sort of bolstering our own knowledge too. So it's kind of a bigger, bolder plan, but also in the short term, just thinking through, is there anything that we would like to do something about that for? Like, do we want to think of like a training that we could do or have or host or invite someone to? So
I think the idea of like even hosting things for ourselves, but also for the community could be really cool idea, like using our expertise to do this kind of stuff.
yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, we do say you don't have to be a scientist to be on the EC. This is about environmental quality and, you know, environmental quality indicators in town. So that's important, but we all care so much. So what do we do to make sure that we can care and also feel like, hopefully you know stuff to say and have ideas about things that are really meaningful. So that's kind of what I was thinking as far as that.
I actually think that's a really good idea. I feel like that's also, even if it is just an internal training, like it's good either way, if it's like internal or like with other city residents, but it's a good way to connect with other experts, like in the city of Bloomington or the greater Indiana area, because you can invite like someone who teaches the subject to come in and lecture to us for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And impart some of that sort of like knowledge, and that's a good way to connect with other people too.
Yeah, and then people see it and say, I was in the EC, and then we'll have a waiting list and people were attending until they can get appointed. But yeah, so that's what I'm discussing. What other ideas do folks have?
So I've been looking into light pollution. Just a bit of a, yeah, I looked through the UDO, we have a fair bit in there already. There's stuff like. You're not supposed to have a certain amount of light over your property line, a certain amount of shielding, that kind of thing. I looked into, there's a nonprofit called Dark Sky International, and I looked at their recommendations. And we're not that far off. So there's kind of two versions here. An easier one would be just sort of some slight UDO changes. Stuff like lowering the total lumens you're allowed to have. And there's also stuff about the color of the light, because bluer light is, worse generally. So I think that would be pretty feasible. A much loftier goal, quite lofty, I think, would be, they also certify, I guess, cities as like dark sky cities. And for example, I think Flagstaff, Arizona was the first one. And they have basically the same population as Bloomington, and their like pollution levels are like way lower than ours. But I think the hard part of that would be getting IU to, be on board with it.
Well, yeah, sorry.
But what we could do, I mean, we can't change the UDO, right, but we can write a report that, right, we can sort of. I mean, are there people in the city who are assessing things like light pollution? This is interesting.
Yeah, we have some compliance planners that when we receive complaints about lighting issues, residents can receive tickets or violations.
Well, we can't directly change the UDO, that is still something we can try to do.
Make recommendations.
We just need a response from the council.
Even if we don't actually get certification, I feel like having a certification thing is a goal to like. Here's a target. Yeah, we wanna like use that as something to. Push for UDO changes or whatever, but even if we don't hit those targets, it's still.
Dave, did you have something?
I was gonna follow really quick with that, so I have light pollution initiatives as maybe like the bigger, get that rolling. Is there anything you're gonna have in like 2025 that'd be nice to, like, do some research or, talk to, whatever, like anything like that you wanna have as a potential priority for this coming year?
So I think in the short term, like you said, research would be good, and most of what I've seen is in the UDO. I'm not sure if there's any other regulations outside of the UDO, but looking at that, I think comparing it to what other cities are doing, or maybe talking to council about it.
Is there a working group that you think this would fit under, or a working group you'd like to create? That people could decide, oh, I also want to work on this with you.
So the working groups we have are water quality, biodiversity, and special projects.
Those are the active ones, yeah.
Special projects maybe, but.
We used to have ad hoc committees that form as needed for a project, doesn't have to be a committee.
Right.
I mean,
A working group.
yeah, and light pollution is typically around creatures that fly, so I feel like it kind of falls under biodiversity, but maybe under those rules, a lot of voting under biodiversity, so, yeah, whatever you all think.
Much like for about a year, we had an active air quality working group, and then it went dormant. I would say this is worthy of, however long we want to have it open, making a working group.
Makes a difference to whether you can see the stars up there too.
I grew up in like middle of nowhere, and coming to Bloomington and looking up is a little depressing. When it's cloudy, there's just an orange below the full sky.
Yeah, it was nice coming to Bloomington after being in like Dallas.
Yeah.
Red lights on, for FAA on towers.
No,
that was, I don't know if it's a big problem anymore, but towers that were over a certain height. Would have red towers to, I mean, red lights to alert planes. And they discovered that on stormy nights when the stars are not visible, the birds couldn't navigate properly and they would focus on the red lights. And sometimes they find thousands of dead birds underneath towers. So
Wow.
that's a big one.
Yeah, a lot of birds and like a lot of insects, including monarchs, or they light pollution really messes with their migration.
Yeah.
Light pollution reminds me of Matt's noise pollution. I was out walking the other day, 2 days in a row. I walked by a yard with, in one case, 3, in another case, 6. Leaf blowers, and just horribly loud leaf blowers, and I had to plug my ears, I just couldn't stand it, so. Is there anything we can do about that? Besides wearing,
Yeah. I mean,
I could foresee a light and noise pollution working. I mean, seriously,
I mean, it's like, what are we as humans doing that are negatively through our things that we're using as, that we may not be realizing are damaging some sort of experience of a lived creature.
of course, there's also loud cars, and I often want to stick out my tongue at the one next to me, but then I'm afraid I'll get shot, so I don't do that.
You wait till they drive past and it's getting real tough.
I will say my previous role as a transportation planner, that came up in one of our public meetings, was, is there anything to do about these really noisy like engines? And the answer that I got was to call the police, just because the police handles noise ordinances, so. I want to caution that if we go down that path, it's more of a police issue.
Okay.
And they won't do anything.
yeah, I was gonna say, I don't foresee that being an effective avenue.
It's like a great fit for what we're looking to do. Yeah, that's a good point. What other thoughts do folks have?
Well, I would say, I do think that the work that Brenna started in the biodiversity, working with the. I mean, beyond the habitat connectivity and also like the bee city, I mean, that feels very doable, within a year, if we can find a plan to meet. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to pass the torch to someone, because I'm only here for another month.
No, I already know.
Okay.
Yeah. We do. Yeah, I agree, this is really good. Other thoughts and thoughts? Oh, yeah.
The Bee City thing reminds me, this was something I know Carrie and Rachel about, but I guess Bloomington just got some kind of like city recognition from IDEM. I guess there's a program for like sustainable cities, and we just got in at the lowest tier to go to like higher tiers. There are some kind of environmental projects involved. Did you make any headway with it?
Yeah, so Liz Carter, it heads up the clean team, which supports the IDEM clean communities.
Yeah,
And I think she intended to reach out to the EC. I think she had you in mind to be the EC representative to attend the clean team. And then I also offered to be on the team as far as like planning.
okay. Who did you say was running it?
Liz Carter,
Okay.
yeah. I didn't get a sense of what projects they were working on.
Or even like what the option, because I know it said there's like, I think depending on the size of the city, actually so many projects, and there are a bunch of categories the projects could be in, but then the fact sheet was incredibly sparse on the details.
I know Liz has mentioned like Hoosier River Watch, so I'm wondering if
Okay.
like there's some correlation between those.
So that would probably
Yeah.
be something, yeah, that makes sense.
I remember, I don't know if you want to be so honest, but basically, in this coming year, seeing what we can do, that way participate, and then. I don't know if it turns into a, you know what, actually, maybe it does, maybe like a city status thing, I was kind of like. The goal is to continue to evaluate and grow our Bloomington city status. Whatever status is,
Give them certifications for the city.
yeah. Sustainable city, that's, that would just be that turning the 3 to 5 year goal is just sort of keeping our finger on the pulse of what we have, what's available, where we can kind of work to move up if it's something that's within reach. I think that's too okay.
I think another thing, just like in the 3 to 5 year range, is like the EC has historically, I mean, we're very closely tied to like the planning department, and I think maybe working more closely with development projects and or developers in terms of education or like talking about how things like fit or don't fit with the habitat connectivity plan, or how stream buffers can be taken into consideration in development projects, all of these things. I mean, I know they already do, but you know, always just to like push a little bit further for environmental things and development projects could be using all of our sort of like knowledge and resources and other efforts to kind of get back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a really good idea. I think that's one of the big ways I think the EC, especially because we're through the planning and transportation department, I think that's one of the big things that we can do is make sure that we're nurturing that relationship. And I think, Rachel, that's where, depending on what you think are good next steps or kind of what are areas that are appropriate for us to focus on, like all that stuff, I think we'll be kind of figuring out how to navigate that, so whether it's, you know, having David come and talk to us, or you know, being kind of a liaison for what our options are, whatever it be, I think that'd be really, really nice.
Yeah, and even if we're like limited in ways we can like exert like official avenues, because I know historically we have been sort of like limited in that. I think even making like educational materials geared towards developers specifically, or that kind of thing. I mean, I think we could be creative in how we make that happen.
I know one thing we talked about was revamping what content on the website as far as resources that are coming from state reports, federal reports, our existing county reports, things like that, and just sort of not necessarily putting it on ourselves to recreate things if there are appropriate materials out there. That to me sounds like a pretty easy lift as far as just finding materials, us all agreeing that those are appropriate to link on our website or through Facebook or whatever. And put together. I don't know what working group this fall into, but we're not to that column yet, so I'm not gonna stress it. Maybe I'll put that on there as like a potential option is, incorporate, I don't know, wider source of materials on the website. Okay, what else are people?
Something striking me, but I can't figure out how to articulate it. Having now read the climate action plan like 3 or 4 times. And we tried to have input on priorities when things were gonna be dealt with, and then we even had a presentation in the last year that we prepared a bunch of questions for, and were mostly not addressed. I was thinking about this when Dave brought up the noise pollution thing again, because on there it was like phasing out 2-stroke lawn equipment at time of replacement, or they're just everything under the sun, because that document had a ton of categories. There's a whole bunch of stuff that sounded great, and I have no idea if it's happening or at what rate any of it's happening. This isn't anything specific, but maybe some sort of way to get feedback on that would provide us with obvious opportunities of like future priorities.
Yeah.
Ways we could be involved, ways we could help, but there's just, I just had mostly questions.
Yeah, are they, I can't remember, so obviously the website, the dashboard is where a lot of the information lives for the greater public. Thinking about how to productively get our questions to somebody who can answer them, because if I remember, it sounded like Sean was sharing that there are just so many parties involved.
Yeah.
One speaker will probably not have the answers for all of our questions. So thinking through what would be a good way for us to find answers to questions we have through whatever touch points are involved. But B, and maybe even more importantly, were we to get the answers, what do we do with those? If it's just pure curiosity, that's something, but that's maybe not as big of a priority. If it's something where we would say, you know, if we hear X, we would like to suggest Y, or we hear, you know, A, we would, you know, we would propose that we could help with beef or whatever.
Yeah, I don't have much in the way of examples off the top of my head. I just remember there were some categories where maybe there was a phase one or a first priority thing that would be inventorying what the highest energy use buildings in the city are. Because that's the first step you'd have to take when you figure out how to reduce our biggest polluters, I guess. And this. When was this document approved? It's been a handful of years,
The
and
original one,
there's, that's a thing that I would think someone with some time and a utility company's phone number could. There's just stuff sure, I don't wanna come off as like this is just purely curiosity, but I wanna see some kind of movement, and I don't even know what opportunities there are to be helpful without some of that information.
Do we know if they have recording mechanisms? Like I know the IU sustainability or climate plan has a system of reporting, or it's not great, but sort of the changes. But do we know if the city?
I think it's just a dashboard, like I think when we asked, they just said dashboard's where it's at, and I'm not sure how many elements of the dashboard are like live data points versus. This was written in 2024, and then it'll be written again in the end of 2025 or something like that, so. Yeah, I don't know how much is really available besides that. Yeah, and I mean, Matt, like I think to your point. I think it would be good for us to know, and it'd be good for us to know if there's things that we can be doing to either support or speak out about specific stuff, because we know if there's any big change we'd like to see, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of logistical process. So I think it's just figuring out like what makes the most sense for us to, what roads to go down as the EC so that we can really verify or challenge or support or whatever it would be.
Cause I mean, it's a good document. But, and I said it a whole bunch of times, about 80% of what it says is Duke needs to diversify their energy, but there's a whole bunch of great steps for the other 20% of things that we can do. And until I know what is being done or what is planned to be done, or et cetera, I don't know what opportunities there are to either nudge or assist or, you know.
Yeah.
X, Y, or Z. So I wasn't really thinking of it as a 2025 thing at all. I didn't think of it at all until about 5 minutes ago, but it's just something I'd like to have my finger on the pulse of, because it just kind of seems like a no-brainer in that regard, like, yes.
And maybe that is something that we do though, is request like in advance with like maybe some specific focus points, request that somebody from that team come and talk to us.
Yeah.
And do that once a year or something where it's intentional, it's something that they can plan for if they need to, it's something that works together, and it's obviously like coming from a good place and a place of collaboration, things like that. Maybe we just ask if we can do that once a year
I
sometimes.
think that would be helpful, because I know that's something like Liz in stormwater, she said it was nice that, like, in the water quality group, we were staying on top of it, we're like, oh, what are you guys up to? So if they know someone's going to be coming and being like, so, what do you guys get done?
Yeah, I think
But
in the past, we used to have more guests, and I think it's just sort of, when does it make sense, what are things, but I think that makes a ton of sense, and especially if we're saying. We're really eager to help in whatever way we can, and we're just this group, but can we mobilize something, can we, you know, put our time with things or, you know, effort into it? You won't read this, I'm sorry, I just realized I'm a little scratchy with like. Well, fast and with my writing, what other thoughts do you have? Are there other priorities or topics that we haven't covered yet that you're thinking about? I'm gonna put eco heroes on here if that's cool with everybody, is that? I just really like it.
It's automatic.
Yeah, I know, it never seems to fly, but I mean, everyone would take that for granted, so. Let's see.
I was trying to think about a theme for that a couple weeks ago. But that doesn't have to be a part of this. I can wait until after we finish this order of new business.
Okay, so Olsen, okay. Oh, good time. What other thoughts do folks have? Anything you're like particularly like passionate about, or that you're curious about, or when we look at the multiple years from now and look back and go, yeah, we did some stuff. I put water quality in parentheses as maybe reports delivered is more of a general push that we would have. have stream inventory, maybe it's that inventory on, specific things that are important to us, like streams would be a good place to start, or maybe at some point it's, I don't know, something else, like certain levels of something. And then, yeah, the rest is, kind of like the longer term plan, we don't need to have lots of them, we can probably clump some of these together a little bit more, but
There's a lot of aspirations on that board.
there sure
I
are.
think we need to squeeze more out of anybody if they don't have anything off the top of their head.
The only other thing I can pick up for putting on the board, it's something we've been talking about a bunch already, and it's kind of an administrative thing, but like getting the onboarding process and kind
Yeah.
of all of that like up and running. And if we put it on the board, then we'll have to do it.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna say onboarding process.
What do you mean by that?
So we talked at a previous meeting about how when folks join the EC, a lot of times we just throw them in, we're like, you're on the EC, congratulations, but we don't go through the history, we don't have a lot of documents that are kind of actively maintained, or, we've never done like official sit downs with new commissioners to explain things or have them Q&A and stuff like that. So we talked about when somebody gets appointed as a commissioner, within the first month, give them a chance to sit down with Rachel, and if there's any other volunteer commissioner who would like to sit down with that person, just to do a little 2-on-1 chit chat, that'd be a great way to get them up to speed before their second meeting. But then also have an annual, let's talk about what the EC is, we talk a little bit more about these things, and do a little bit more like a bigger, who are we, what's our role, kind of presentation that gives us all a refresher as well. So yeah, just to kind of make it stick a little more easily. I know it's a little hard when you join. You might remember your early days on the EC that it was. No, but I think that will kind of help people feel a little more connected.
And Mike, I was looking for that history document you were talking about last month. I couldn't find it in Linda's files. Be sure to send that to me.
I could email it to you.
That's fine, yeah.
I have just a question as a newcomer to EC in Bloomington. What's the history of EC's community engagement and just kind of interaction with the public as a bridge between the public and the city? Or is there?
Well, back in the PCB days, we used to write letters to the newspaper to let people know what was going on with PCDs.
Pre-pandemic, we really tried to appear a lot. I mean, we tried to go to a lot of farmers markets with a table. We, any environmentally themed event, whether it's still Bug Fest, we still do. The high school would put something on. We try to drum up some volunteers to whatever it was and have a table and a couple of people, so that we could have pamphlets and mostly, also just talk to people. And then the pandemic happened and now there is less of that, but I think it's still part of the goal to table at events.
And things like
Love
eco
this,
heroes.
it worked out really well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my gauging from the last couple of years at least has been that we had talked a lot about the role that community engagement and outreach has in what we're doing and it being visible or something people understand or something people feel strongly about. And so it's kind of been, we've tried to kind of thread that into a lot of things. We've had a working group for outreach stuff in the past, but I think what's hard is for me has been what does that look like as far as time commitments? I think that doing things and it going to Bug Fest or some of the high school or whatever it would be. I think we all understand the value of doing something like that. But I think it's just making sure we have enough bodies to do it, especially if it's an 8-hour day at the Master Gardener Fair or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where, as at the EC, it hasn't been as powerful. I will say, we've talked about what can we do when it includes the newspapers or, the radio or whatever, what are ways that we could be more visible? I think for me, what I would love to explore, and I don't know where it falls on this, is how do we think, maybe it's 3 to 5 big goals, is how do we think about ourselves as what we bring value to the community? And not what does our mission statement say? What do we tell, a city official, but like, really, like, what is it that the community itself is getting from us? Is it like reports? Okay, so what are we doing with reports? Let's make that a priority. Is it, you know, feeling in like, involved in like an artistic, expressive way? Eco heroes. Let's make sure we're working hard on eco heroes. But like, I think it's kind of figuring out what we think are the most important outputs in whatever way, and then channeling our community outreach through that, because yeah, I think the social stuff's a really good idea as far as just like re-energizing that, so.
Because education is a big part of what we're actually able to do. There's a lot of things we can't really impact very much, so, or places don't want us to, and when things are, we got this, but if you could convince people to buy more native plants, that'd be great. And it's like, okay, we'll try to be a mouthpiece for this or that. So we have tried through a lot of ways, whether it was tabling or letters to the editor or columns type of deal. But a lot of things that gets enthusiasm and then it falls off. So the outreach has been has always been kind of tough.
I was thinking, this was related to the weed wrangle, but, like opening up events like that to the public, if they were like on Facebook or like, I don't know, organizing like a downtown cleanup where it's just kind of come show up if you want. I just, I think I am in a cohort of people who all recently moved to Bloomington and are interested in environmental issues and kind of being more engaged in the community. And so I think, I see like value in potentially trying to plan events. I totally understand that that's like a really big time commitment. But I was just curious kind of what that had looked like in the past, as I've been here for not very long.
Yeah, I think one thing that has come up conversationally, but I don't know how successfully we've done it, again, and I think most of us, you know, work jobs or full-time students, like it's kind of just whenever you can squeeze things in. One thing we talked about was trying to collaborate more with Ecos or like Ped Christian, whoever it was, that was like another entity, that they also have bodies that may have some degree of time that they can commit, and we can say, let's all join in and go together. And the weed wrangle, you know, MC Iris does those. If they're putting it on, we can show up, but can we drum up more people to be excited about it? And can we all talk about it? We say, hey, the EC is gonna go.
It's technically the city.
Yeah.
It's like anybody can.
Yeah, so it's like, but but like, can we find things that are already happening and get excited about it and be there and like try and engage through that, knowing that people, if it comes up with like, yeah, we're on the environmental commission, what do we do with that connection that we have right there in that moment? Do we say like, yeah, we also have this other thing that we're doing next week, if you wanna join, you know, to volunteer at the garden fair or whatever, or yeah, we're doing the Eco Heroes thing, have you heard about it? Oh, it's in like 2 months, it's whatever, but figure out like how to, you know, there's those moments.
Yeah, we tend to go really big into eco heroes, since that is a visible, successful both outreach, but also just program of its own, contest of its own. But then, yeah, otherwise you ride the momentum of the energy of outreach.
Yeah, so we've done it either way, like try to do outreach in and of itself, but also do we just do like outreach one of the things for them, like a water quality report or something like that? Do we have that before they go, okay, what's the outreach plan for that, and do it kind of point by point like that, so.
One possible outreach thought, I know we've got a bunch of these kind of outgoing things like the pamphlets and if we do reports and stuff like that. Are there ever any, or could we ever do any like outreach opportunities of like getting input from like what are people in the city concerned about? What are their priorities? What are they seeing in the environment? Like that kind of like.
Yeah.
Then bringing stuff to us that can help shape what we're doing and also the ways we advise like city council and stuff like that.
What if, I really like that, what if we, this is not an actual proposal, but like, it could be like, our October meeting each year is a call from the community on like, hey, we're gonna be planning our priorities for next year. If you have questions or thoughts that you want us to have as a consideration, and somehow can be like, we're not here to answer those questions in that moment, but like, if there are things that you want us to have on our radar for next year, come share them with us, because next week.
Show up or email us.
Show up to email us, yeah. So
And
maybe
this is where having a Facebook presence could be.
Yeah, some kind of, or even just like the tabling of the, like, used to do it, like the public market or something like that, like being able to like have a place where it's just like, yeah, come tell us what you think.
We tried at one of the one of the gardening fair ones, we had like a notebook and we were basically asking people for what they thought and cared about environmentally, and it was. Yeah, it was an exercise.
Something that I was thinking, I have like a list of things, but having a Google form somewhere online that people, it was just open consistently that people could go and like fill out. And then if there was someone, it could be connected to someone's email and they could be in charge of it and then look through it casually. And if there's things that can be responded to in passing, I'm sure a lot of people have like, I don't, this is something that's happening and like, I have no idea what to do about it, and there's a chance it's just like, oh, go talk to this person in the city, or like. This is this thing, but if there's like larger issues, then it can kind of be brought up. In the meetings, but yeah, I was just thinking that having some sort of online form where people can kind of continuously put stuff in would be a good way to, have a.
Yeah. I think it's a really interesting idea to have, and maybe it would help if we did I mean, we could talk here, it could be like, either there is like a way that we have responses like in the moment, or it goes through the EC or something like at a monthly meeting each month. It could be something that like every 6 months we grab the whole list and then respond to things, like it could be kind of broader strokes, replies or answers or whatever, or it could be like literal, like each person might have us going down a rabbit hole, like, I'm not the person to ask, but you can talk to this person or this person, whatever, and that would just be like a little bit more personalized, but yeah. Good idea. Okay, any other ideas I should add to this rapidly filling column, semi-full column, and then we'll get on to the work groups in a second. And that's, okay, do we need a break to get some water, to get another snack or something? Okay, I'm gonna take a quick second, grab some water.
Make sure you know.
Yeah, oh, that's right.
Thank you.
Eating work, this is carrying real life, this meeting, a lot of stuff. Not gonna stop.
Yeah, outreach is hard, even the social media presence is, it's one of those things where you wonder, is this get one like from Linda because I don't see it? Or because, I mean, I don't know, social media is hard.
It definitely helps to be more engaged with like other groups, because reposting is like, there's so much power in like having.
Oh, and every time we get the eco heroes figured out and we do the poster, like I share I share that post from the EC and try like, again, same thing though, mostly crickets, but you try.
So we're talking, I was thinking about how I get stressed out when my list is long, but also that, in order to maximize community outreach in some ways, like more collaboration with the things that we're already doing and involved with, like I spent a lot of time planning, environmental events. And I don't know that they would overlap at all with the things we're doing, but, we could find a way that some of them did, then, I mean, that sort of thing, or like people who are working with MCIS or, sort of, instead of adding things on for community outreach, looking for what we are already involved in and doing, and then bringing the EC into that, so we don't have to feel stressed about lots of new things added to our calendars. Yes.
Right, it's always about trying to find out how to get in front of eyes, and so, you table it at farmer's market for a handful of weeks and you don't get many people talking to you and see, okay, well, I think people read the HT, let's try to put stuff in the guest column. So let's, people are on social media, let's do this. And then, you have 20, 30 followers or something. You're like, still don't really know. We get in front of eyes.
Do you know if we're allowed to have a LinkedIn group or LinkedIn page for the EC?
I'm not sure, but I can check.
Yeah, I would love to check, 'cause I feel like not to make the hierarchy of social media platforms, but I don't use Facebook nearly as much, as other things, so. I think there where people are, I would not say we should do TikTok for various reasons, but I think TikTok would be a bad choice, I'm gonna put that out there now. But I do think, thinking through where are people, if we have folks who are, young professionals or you know, students or whoever in the area, there's a good chance that they're gonna be on LinkedIn and pretty active there, so maybe that's a good place. And for folks who are enjoying a little more free time or, you know, retired or whatever, maybe something like Facebook's a better fit.
Yeah, or, I mean, like Instagram, because Facebook drives, I'm not on Facebook at all, but if you're not on it, you can't access a lot of things that
Mhm.
are on it, and so sometimes I'm going looking for information, and it only has it on Facebook, and then.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think, Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn are like the big three in terms of like the very professional oriented audience, the very young, energetic oriented audience on Instagram, and then like older folks who have had more like time in the community and they're involved in like Facebook groups, and all of that.
and Facebook is great for events, I think. And so too.
Yeah, and there's no reason why you can't share the exact same post on all three platforms. It happens all the time.
Would you prefer to have a individual Instagram page, like the department has a page, an Instagram page? So is that something we would utilize if they're following already, or start kind of from scratch for Instagram? And it doesn't have to be answered now, it's just kind of posing the question.
It'd be great if we had our own page, I mean, they're so easy to maintain, you just need an image and a caption,
Yeah,
a link.
I think we kind of figure out who like manages it, if people reach out, like, when we ask for input from the community on what are things that are important to you. If we're getting 150 direct messages, just kind of who puts aside time to make sure that that is something we're responding to or noting, and also, yeah, you can, you know, the topic, but I think it's a great idea, I think Instagram can ride with more than the other ones, but.
In terms of like gathering form responses and stuff, that seems like a role pretty well fit for like a secretary position.
Yeah, I think it's a good point.
Yeah, social media maybe, but I think social media can be a surprising work, in terms of managing it. So, yeah, you don't want to put too many, have too many things going on, because something will,
And maybe that's kind of the social media presence as a 3 to 5 year goal. Is maybe diversifying our platforms, and maybe the 2025 goal is social media, just sharing materials we have. And then kind of anticipating like, what do we want to do next month on social media, but just kind of keeping it a little contained, but in the big picture, like, okay, we got Facebook figured out. Let's expand into Instagram.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons that Rachel and I wanted to talk about it is just to, as a framing thing, kind of moving forward, is like, I think for a lot of the reports, there's ways that when you're gathering information, you could pull, you know, what's the most important thing? Okay, let me throw it into a Canva and make it cute, and then that takes, you know, 30 minutes, and then people might be interested and informed about what they find if it's cute for them. So, yeah.
I totally agree with that. I mean, yeah, and maybe that's like something that we consider for the future down the road, is where does stuff like how we're designing our report and how we're disseminating them, and do we make infographics for all of the material we have and stuff like that. Okay, here we are, friends. Halfway point. We're gonna get through this in not too long. These are all the things that we said we could potentially have as priorities in 2025. I think this is too many things for us to actually do in 2025, but maybe it's not. These are the 3 to 5 year goals. So these would potentially be things that we're like big picture aiming towards. Theoretically, all of these things would somehow, like, these would feed into a goal somewhere. So if this doesn't fit somewhere into here, we should talk about where we need to sync things up. And then in order to make these things actually happen for real, to support these things, we need to figure out which working groups we need to lock in. And most importantly, like tonight, Nadia needs to understand here. Ideally, we would say, okay, who's gonna be on each of these working groups, and like promise. So that would be kind of the next guess. How do people feel about just saying, these are the top ones that I think we should prioritize? I know in the past we've done a million things. We've done like, you get 3 votes, so what 3 are you gonna vote for? We go through and say like, raise your hand for this, raise your hand for this. We just have people shout it out. Does anybody have a preference on which attempt at telling this list a bit? We go through?
and I think maybe training could be moved to like a 3 to 5 year goal, just like, and to get it entirely out of the the big list on the side,
I think that would mean that we just acknowledge that 2025 is not the year to work on training,
yeah,
maybe a future year.
I
What do
mean,
people think about that?
It is over there as well.
Mm-hmm. Like a more like evergreen, okay, so let's do that, let's say, we're gonna take this training, which would require. Theoretically, it could be to focus on like our different working group topics, really. So that would require some planning, things like that, so maybe it could be like a soft conversation that we're having to support this guy. Okay. So this one, we're not gonna focus on. Onboarding for new commissioners. We have a few vacancies, so my opinion is that that actually is probably pretty important, even if it's just sitting down with Rachel and someone else. And then having a one time a year presentation, maybe it's not more than that, maybe it's not redoing the history of the EC document or whatever, it's just intentionally talking to people and having one meeting a year that's focused on this. Does that sound feasible?
And get them to read the document that we worked on last time.
That's right, please. Okay, so onboarding. I think that kind of falls into like commissioner maintenance, administrative. Okay, so I'm gonna.
I think that's just a thing that we're deciding we're doing. It's not a 2025, this is what we do now.
Well, it's already on the calendar too.
Mhm.
So
Right, it's a discussion.
That's.
And my assumption is that we do not need any kind of working group support to do this, it's more of just making sure that you have what you need, that our commissioners feel comfortable, that process. Okay.
Yes, can we just also, can we sort of mark off the things we're just definitely going to,
Mhm.
like, the Go Heroes?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Are there any that we're definitely like already down the road doing at this point?
Yeah,
Not really.
maybe not.
Yeah.
Okay, that's, yeah, a good one. You know what? Are you writing these things down? Would you mind writing onboarding and eco heroes as like definites?
I'm highlighting them.
Okay, can I erase them? Is that gonna make people feel nuts if I do that? Or, and then training for EC and community,
I'll highlight that in a different
we're
color.
blurring it as part of the bigger picture stuff.
Future year.
Is that
Okay.
canon? If I erase them as we go.
Declutter, yeah,
Declutter.
declutter the list.
Great.
I have a question, what things can we do to help Bloomington become a bee city?
oh gosh, I might need a second because it's been a minute since I've looked at it, I'll get back to you on that.
It was mainly filling out some forms, from what I
Yeah.
remember, like, we seemed to satisfy many of the requirements.
Yeah,
It looks like do you have it up for now already?
not right in front of me, no.
The website says the application steps to, form a committee, assign facilitation to a local government body. Designate that government department as a sponsor and then complete the online application. And, draft a B City, resolution. Get the council to approve and submit your fee.
Okay,
And our fee would be, $500.
Oh. I thought it was 50.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
It's not a one-time fee.
There is a renewal fee, but,
It's-
it might be 500. It doesn't say the renewal fee, but you said it's low.
I'm assuming usually renewal fees are a lot lower than like the initial starting fee. It has been quite a while since I've looked at this. Basically, our goal was trying to get buy-in and find like partners that would be interested in like pursuing this with us. So we talked about trying to get IUB to pursue B Campus USA certification as well, like parallel to us and work with the university, and because they have like half the population of Bloomington is like IU. So we had talked about doing that. We had talked about trying to find partners in city government. And then at some point, we would just need to fill out sort of this like resolution. And then try to gain support from like council, basically.
I would think MCR should be very supportive because they want to go for native plants and those are pollinators and so, yeah.
It sounds like it's pretty feasible, it's just kind of getting our ducks in a row.
Yeah, it was something I frankly thought we were gonna be able to do by the end of this year, but then scheduling conflicts, put us back a little bit.
Well, I just added while we were chatting, I just added under working groups, I've just put liaison magic. And it just has like the onboarding, because so much of that is gonna go through Rachel. I have maybe social media, I wanna talk about that, but depending on kind of what your role, Fiona, is or what we can do there. And then elected positions, I think that that's something that, thinking about budget and like our treasurer role and things like that, I do think that that's something we should. And I'll make sure to make space to talk to, but everybody needs to go in these two columns, because it's just sort of maintenance stuff. Okay, having said that. What else do folks, when they see this? Are there things that they say, in 2025, we only have 12 months? People are gonna be on vacation, work gets busy, life gets busy, people have babies, like, there's so many things that happen. That are gonna take so much time, we only meet once a month. Thinking about the most important priorities to you. Look at this. I want the habitat. Yeah.
That is.
And really, would really like to see that come to, and I'd also like to see resolution on the stream buffer. I
Yeah.
mean, we've been working or talking about it for a long time.
Mhm.
And those are a couple that I think, let's get them done in 2025.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the stream buffer thing, if you do get like, again, an undergrad for it, then it would be done by summer.
Okay, so stream buffer falls into what working group?
Water.
Water, okay, so we're gonna put water.
Kind of a overlap, biodiversity too,
No, yeah.
When you say get an undergrad, you.
Geography. So,
Geography, okay,
So-
so I could also put out a call.
okay, yeah, I know, like I was talking with the people, like, my people in the geography department,
Okay.
because it's something that would probably take a lot of like the IS and all that.
Or like,
To be
like,
fair, go ahead.
or like, if I'm talking to, I was just talking to, he that works for Sistine Collins, and he has all of these undergrads who are doing these sorts of things, so. Yeah, so we all have different ways.
Inventory would be cool, but when I was bringing up the stream buffer one, I was thinking, I really wanna see this. Like this argument we
Oh, no,
have.
that's my
Okay.
priority.
That's. It's like
Because it's a
inventory
research question, very per capita.
would be awesome,
Like,
but
I want data to be able to throw in.
that's extra credit. What I want is like, okay,
Yeah.
you've decided you're not gonna measure from edge of the bank, you're gonna measure from center stream, fine, this is. Either these
This
are
is the
the
impact of
streams
what
that we
Yeah.
get a special exception on, or this is the extended buffer we do to make up for the fact that some are wider, like I want. Whatever we're gonna do to get into the UDO in 2025,
Mhm.
and if inventory happens, awesome, but that's the
And if we get,
closure I'm looking for.
if we get that research question answered by summer, then we have time to
Well,
like.
then you have
The
lots of
second half of the
leverage.
year to like. Just be able to. Okay, or just something, a newspaper, you check out the cat with or something.
I would love to see the biodiversity working group get the habitat connectivity plan revisited, and then also Bee City. Yeah, those were the two big things that I was trying to work on this past year. And we talked a lot about stuff.
Do you feel like if we have X number of months, we have so many different priorities to go through, do you think we could do this in 2025? I mean, I didn't be here, but.
Yeah, I wouldn't be here, but I do think like it's especially if like we're able to access city resources for revamping the habitat connectivity plan. In that case, I think the biodiversity group would be able to really work on Bee City as well. And they do kind of go together in terms of like creating pollinator habitat, and that is habitat that you can like connect to other habitat like throughout the city. So I saw them very much as going together, and I did like a lot of work in a class last year. And I'd be happy to just like forward the resources that I created and some of the research that I did for that to whoever is in charge of the biodiversity working group next year.
What do folks think about the Bee City and trying to make basically file the paperwork to make it happen, because it really seems like it's mostly.
Yeah,
the process of.
there are like complementary things that I definitely think could like boost that or go along with it.
Do we have the resources to pay the application fee?
We have a budget that we get from the planning department, that's really underutilized, it's, I think it's mostly, Eco Heroes kind of delegated, but I think we can work.
I have a really perhaps silly question, because I don't know anything about BC USA, but what does it do for us? So just to have that, it's just paying for the title, or is there something that we have to? I don't know.
It is a status, it's like, we don't get like funding from them, like we have to pay to be part of it, but it's like
Right.
to be part of like the network of other cities.
Because I know
potential
we have
campuses and stuff like that.
like cities and tree cities and burn down and all these things, it's just,
Yeah.
it's
It's
the
that.
mayor's monarch pledge, it's one of the things, you're part of a group, basically.
For me, I also felt like it was a way to demonstrate progress for the EC, like a tangible thing that we have done.
Yep.
To sort of like make progress towards these like loftier goals of like creating habitat connectivity and that kind of thing. And also something to help get the city sort of like working with us on something that they would like, because the city would almost certainly like status most
Right,
cities
because
do.
the city's doing a good job of planting natives and whatnot and helping the bees, but if this is a thing that surely looks good and the city's on board for.
I mean, and also just, having these certifications raises sort of larger community awareness when they come across them, they're like, oh, this is something that we do in the city, or that the city is doing, or some people do, as you know, yeah, so what their website says is heightens awareness of biological diversity, right? So people might wonder what it is, and then.
Yes, and I think that that's kind of, when we talk about outreach and tabling, that's something where people are like, so what do you do? It's like, great question, here's some of the things that we do. Becoming a bee city was something that's really important to us, here's what it means, here's what you can do to, promote local pollinators, whatever, like, I think it does open the door of a conversation piece, so.
Yeah, and not only, I feel like it demonstrates progress and something the EC has accomplished, but I also personally wanted to use it to like jumpstart like actual like further efforts to like engage the community to create more like pollinator habitat. So I was hoping this would like sort of create momentum for like educational campaigns and extra resources and extra partnerships and like, like maybe we have like a native seed drive type of thing. Sorry, I just attacked your water bottle. But yeah, no, so I was hoping to use it sort of like as a way to get things moving, but also to show what we kind of can do as the environmental commission.
Do people feel like it would be an okay thing for us to kind of commit to and add to the biodiversity group? Okay.
It would also be like getting a kind of easier lift like B City if we wanted to go to like something that would be more difficult, like the city or something like that, like we get them people on board with us for.
Yeah, it
easy.
can create
Like,
momentum for that.
Yeah, we can maybe do a little harder one and then.
Yeah, my other thought process for V City, just to like wrap up my thoughts on it, was I wanted a way for us to work with and engage IU specifically. Like from city to campus, or from city to university, because there is the Campus USA as well, which I know that the IU Indianapolis campus, I think, has. Or at least one of the,
Columbus or something,
maybe it's Columbus, yeah, there was one of the regional IU campuses had certification, but I noticed that the city of Bloomington and IU Bloomington do not have it, and I thought it'd be a great way to like create a relationship there as well.
Great, very great. So some of these things are like gentler things that we can kind of just do a little bit of research, and I don't know if it would be necessary to formalize it as a priority for the year, but just like, sustainable city support, like, I think what we do is just reach out and say, hey, is this something we're gonna talk about? And then know that part of, supporting some of these statuses and things like that will include some of these other things. So that doesn't necessarily have to be, or like looking into light pollution stuff, like it'd be amazing. If there's things that you're looking into, or if you want to reach out to the group and say, hey, I'm trying to figure something out, anybody want to brainstorm with me? That doesn't have to be like super formalized until it is, unless we need to be. So I think it's called public, that may just be a conversation we have 1 month. Or maybe it's not, maybe it's something bigger and more significant that we want to make a priority, so we know we do it in 2025. And then got a couple other things. So what else do people think should be on the list for 2025? I'm definitely gonna do it, be able to check it off and say, we at least got through this.
Sorry to interrupt, but I have to drive to Kansas tomorrow and I have to get up real early, so.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
gonna take an early departure.
Yeah,
If anybody wants any of that bread, I can leave some here.
yeah.
That's delicious.
Yeah, I'll grab a piece of it. Are you gonna be at the December meeting then, Mike?
Yes, and in fact, my term doesn't expire till the end of January, so I'll probably get that one too.
Yes. Okay, well then,
Did I hear some yes for the bread?
any other bread fillers?
No.
I don't need anything.
Nice. You can fill your bread basket with all the other stuff too.
I'm
Just-
just visiting, so the bread's gonna be with.
Oh, nice, nice. Okay, other thoughts on things that you really wanna make sure we do in 2025, or that will be important steps towards the bigger goal?
Can we list what we've already committed to?
Yeah. You already did that, Rachel?
Yeah, so I have, water quality groups going to be looking at the riparian buffer and UDO. Is that everything for the for water quality? For biodiversity, habitat connectivity plan in Bee City, USA. And then, some administrative things, I'll be making like a, EC 101 presentation. Overall, like maybe doing a 5-minute social media discussion every meeting. And then talking more about the elected positions, and there's a dollar, is that a dollar sign? Okay.
It's like treasure.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
I think we'll be busy enough, actually.
Yeah.
So those are the two main groups, but you've mentioned special projects group in previous meetings, but we haven't really talked about that off here.
Yeah.
I had a thought about the special projects possibly, especially like, I know it was like a grant thing, but it's also maybe, it could be something we have to like organize the city certification stuff under as well, or at least just like an organizing hub for that, even if there are like specific like
That's a great idea.
branches off of for like the light pollution thing, if there's a separate like some working group, but just like as a place for all of that to like be organized, people look out for other certs and just like track that a little bit off.
Safe travels.
Bye, Mike.
Yeah, so, good luck in the snow.
I think that's a really, really good idea, Mitchell, so I think that there's like a little bit of like administrative-y point to
Yeah.
it, but also it does feel like it could overlap really nicely with some things that I take too.
Yeah, because it sounds like Bruno was saying, what the B City stuff requires is like kind of similar to a grant proposal, it's just we're giving them money for the best for it.
So what do people think about the sustainable cities piece of it? Is that something that we want to, anybody wants to raise their hand and say that this is important to me, or is that something that we,
Sounds like I might get dragged into it anyways.
yeah?
Yeah, I think that's something that's already happening,
Okay,
so.
so I can just erase it and know that it's sort of starting to flow, okay?
I think of it as a 3 to 5 years.
Sounds good. Potential planning and EC relationship piece, I know that we put. I thought, but yeah, the EC stuff into maybe like a bigger plan, but maybe not try and force it in this coming year. What do people think about that? And then this would just kind of get smushed until maybe 2026.
Can I just ask for a clarification about this? So this group does meet though when there is a need, right? That's when it's called. Because it met once with Linda in the last year.
It's been really, really.
To do a
interesting.
site visit, yeah.
Yeah.
With that, and then there's another meeting to talk about, we looked at all the plans for that, what was that development, the 140 acre.
Yeah.
Is that site, right? Yes.
Is there any chance that Rachel could take over what Linda did and,
Good question.
talk to Linda about what she did there and, how she managed to work with the head of the planning department to get at what the other members of the planning department were looking at, and then get them to tell us what they're looking at, so.
I am unable to bring plans to the EC, but however, the EC can request planners to come and present about specific plans. Or you're welcome to attend Lake Planning Commission and bring back information, but I am unable to present that.
And can you let us know what plans might be interesting? So.
I mean, I think every plan is interesting. There's like a landscaping plan for every development that occurs because of the EDO.
what Linda did in the past was basically, I get that her role was very different, that she would just literally just roll everything out and talk through it, but,
Until she was told not to.
yeah, it sounds like it was like a lot of time and energy and a lot of other things, for sure. I think what we helped, what she did do also though was she really kind of like noted the projects or developments that had opportunity for us to weigh in on things, and so I think that's maybe, David, what you're thinking is that she would say like, there's been a bunch of things that none of them really have big environmental considerations, or they're really doing a great job, so we're not gonna spend a lot of time on it. But then here's this one that I think has a lot that if the EC says, we think this is important, then that'd be beneficial. Is there a way, are you at liberty to like raise your hand and say like, hey, EC, if you wanna go to this meeting, or if you wanna request this plan or talk to you, there's a thing that's happening that is potentially a good opportunity for us, is that something that your role is? That would make sense for your role at this time, or any way that we could kind of structure something similar?
I can talk to development services and see like how we can coordinate more. I'm not sure how much information I can bring, because there are planners that lead projects and I just advise, from the environmental standpoint. So I'm not sure if I can present them.
Are you at liberty, maybe the question is like, finding out if you're at liberty to say, oh, I talked to so-and-so, who's one of the planners, about this project, here's what I advise them on, but I think it would really benefit the understanding of this if the EC were able to something, like, I don't know, and maybe that's just kind
I'm
of.
wondering if it's like better to look at, like the plan commission's agenda or meeting minutes, how we do the other meeting updates, if we talk about that at that time.
Oh, okay, yeah, if that'd be possible, that'd be great.
Cause I can always include those meetings or those minutes in our packet.
I think that makes sense, do you folks think that's all right,
I think that makes a lot of sense.
What was that again? I didn't catch it.
I can include like the plan commission's, meeting minutes in our packets.
Oh, okay, yes.
Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then we're kind of going through the end reports, you can kind of just like,
Yeah.
be like, hey, what do people think?
I'll make sure with the department that they're okay with that, but I think that'd be fine.
Yep, okay, I think that's a really good solution.
How often does the planning commission meet?
At least monthly, I think
Yeah.
maybe even every 2 weeks.
I was also wondering if it would make sense for like one of us to sit in on those meetings, like we sit in on
Yeah.
other meetings, if anyone else.
Yeah, would you mind in the minutes, oh wait, are you taking the minutes this month, I guess you're.
No, I'm just kind of taking like
Yeah,
general
the minutes
minutes,
are kind of
yeah.
like, just like chatty minutes, if you wouldn't mind when you send those notes, if you wouldn't mind just. Marking when the plan commission meets, or maybe just as a note of like, hey, DC, don't forget, if somebody wants to attend. And then we can just work with our ongoing conversations, be like, hey, is anybody going to plan the meeting? Yeah, okay, what's the second, fourth Tuesday of the month?
the county plan commission meets online or is available online, is the city.
I believe so.
Yeah, well, let us know that.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of easier to hang on. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove this, incorporate raw material source on the website, so that would be like, just pulling up documents and stuff like that. That would be kind of nice,
Yeah, that was something I had talked about with biodiversity.
we have to stay now. The list is too big already.
I know.
I think that this falls under biodiversity, but I think that it seems like it's probably like just an ongoing. If we find something we think is really an interesting and useful resource, we just bring it to the meeting and say, hey, are people okay if we link to this?
Yeah, I feel like it's something that can,
Stuff for water as well.
Yeah, for all the materials.
it's definitely something that can bounce around working groups. So maybe if biodiversity has a lot of stuff right now, maybe we have it start in like a different working group, or even just like, yeah, I don't know.
Put it on.
Anybody noticed how good she is at erasing things?
Get out of here. Materials, I'm gonna put. Materials. I mean, I think it applies to anything, if there's resources or educational materials that we deem would be important. Okay. Okay, what do you think about the potential next stages for light pollution / dark city?
If we're okay with that working group existing, then research can go under it, just like materials just did. I mean,
Yeah, do we wanna make the step 1 for 2025, the start learning about it, potentially making a plan, and then maybe 2026. Try and see if we can make something happen.
Let's see where the research goes.
Yeah.
I think honestly, the research part probably won't be that hard because the nonprofit has like a sample, like code basically, that you can sort of apply to what you already have. So
Okay, so we put. How would you feel about, so Adam, looking at you as light pollution working group chair, how would you feel about research, info gathering and proposed next steps? And
Sure.
then. If that's. You know, reviewing the UDO and seeing if you can put in a bid for change, if it is, looking at what kinds of like. Materials we can get to like private business owners or private landowners, whatever, like just maybe think through what would be a good way to. Do something as we're aiming towards a bigger goal for the community in our city. Cool, okay, great, so that is another vote for the light pollution working group, I'm gonna raise this dramatically. Calls the public so that they can give us thoughts on something. Doesn't we wanna put some time, thought, consideration into, sub question, is this something good for our dear friend Fiona to put some thought and consideration into? What do people think?
My one thought on it is if that is something we wanna do next year, it seems like a second half of the year sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that would impact timing or if we wanted to do it, but it seems like,
Yeah,
fall or.
it feels to me like it's sort of step two of like, I think establishing a social media presence comes first. Because you need means or medium through which I solicit that, so maybe, but only after social media.
I think that's a really, really good call, because I think this will hopefully get some attention and maybe inform some of the questions we have. This will hopefully build out a space where then we send this out, people respond. This is something that we would have as a resource and we want to share. Like, I think a lot of things would connect to this at the same time. So I think, yeah, maybe an official of some sort or more formalized call of public for input on planning. Maybe we consider if we want to do something before our next planning for the annual, planning meeting happens, but maybe until then, just
I think it's a good idea if we just kind of table.
post deliverable conversation. Okay, so I'm gonna erase this. Because we're gonna fold it in another time. Fiona, are you here for a year and a half or 1 year, for 6 months?
It's kind of up in the air actually right now, but definitely for the spring, potentially for the summer.
Okay,
Fiona's embarking on an exciting opportunity to study in DC next year, so she will only be with us for the 24-25.
just to the
year.
rows of eco heroes and
I
she's gonna
know.
hack everything up. Yeah, that's okay, I'm glad to have you, that's some really good ideas coming. Speaking of which, social media. How do people feel about that being one of our initiatives for the year? Sub question, is this something that Fiona has capacity or capability to?
Liaison magic.
It isn't a liaison magic, but I do know that like this isn't the only thing that you do as,
I think, setting aside like 5 minutes per meeting would be a good starting point, just to see like what the working groups are accomplishing. And it's like, is it posting, the presentation? Is it, just
Mhm.
announcing an event? So I think just maybe starting off for the 2025, just adding it to the agenda for ideas would be good.
Sounds good. How would you feel about if we have materials that already exist or materials that we link to the website, sharing those just like as a potential post?
Yeah.
Have it raise up. Cool. Okay, I'm erasing this. All right. Oh, and then this one, I think we kind of. It's
Yeah,
kind of
that's,
already-
that's just gonna happen at some point.
Well, we successfully finished our 2025 list. Okay, for 3 to 5 year goals, just wanna kind of check on this, if there's any areas that we think don't make sense to try and have as like in our umbrella of the things we're working towards. Report stuff, do people still feel good about keeping collecting data and gathering reports to share with the council, with the city, and residents? Great, this is gonna stay, water quality is our number one priority for the round. social media stuff, sounds like we've got some ideas of how to just kind of start making it more part of our evergreen strategy.
Can I
And, oh,
say something about that? I was, I think something that would be helpful, so something that I'm like planning on doing. For when I leave is preparing materials for the new fellow. So if there's any, that was a big thing that I was gonna like include in that is just. Maybe for the first half of 2025, thinking about ways that we could implement social media and like, oh, this is a great opportunity that we could do this, and then using that kind of circumstantial data to move into like actually putting a social media strategy to practice is something that I'll kind of include for the fellow. If there's anything else
awesome.
that, yeah.
Love it. I think that's great, because I think that in the coming 6 months and then planning for the following 6 months, thinking about, you know, when is like World Biodiversity Day, when, you know, things like that, which is like, yeah, that'd be great stuff to kind of start baking in and doesn't have to start happening immediately, but I think
It's something to think about.
started building something, yeah, and that's great. Okay, so this is kind of, I don't know if. How do people feel about this being like a 3 to 5 year goal for
I
us?
think it's appropriate for that
Mhm.
timeline.
Okay, I like it. Doing inventories of different aspects of the environment, whether it's stream, you know, inventories, whether it's, you know, what some of the other stuff we talked about, like different, you know, monitoring levels and data collection, things like that. How do you feel about this being something that's important to us, is like helping to keep tabs on some of those different elements? All right, a shrug from Mr. Eric Wally, got it. Okay, so maybe this is something that we keep, but maybe this isn't something that we are actively trying to make sure we're doing all the time.
I feel like it kind of gets wrapped up in the reports a little bit to some degree, but it's
Yeah.
also like, yeah.
Opportunistic is whatever we're focusing on.
Okay, I mean, that's.
If
that can
it,
be
if it
totally
applies,
fine.
it applies, basically.
Yeah, okay, so what if we do that? What if we say this sort of stuff is really intended to inform reports, so we might not do it if we're not focusing on reporting it that year, but we understand that's part of it. Okay, that's totally fine. Please shout out if I'm moving too fast and you're like, you don't feel that way, say it, I'm not watching the clock or anything, okay. The training stuff, that we talked about this was about training us more on sort of subject matter, knowledge, so it would be potentially inviting guests. Potentially just doing more trainings on some of the things that we're talking about. What do people think about that as far as a long-term goal of being like getting education ourselves as well as like sharing with the public? So at this point, we don't have, I don't think, any specific priorities for this coming year that fall into this, so that would just be like a little asterisk is, this isn't something we're acting on right now, but we understand that, and maybe it's in the coming year, as we have ideas for things, we earmark them and say, oh, we should put this on the list for guests in the coming year, or for when we start doing our training, like actively think about that.
Seems like it'll naturally come up potentially when we're doing things like we pursue the B City certification. Like one of the things on the website is that they have all these sort of training or educational related things. And so we might take that moment if we're like approving a document to, you know, have whoever's leading this as a way to sort of talk to, I mean, encourage people to watch some of the video, just basically sort of educate ourselves about that or about the water quality. I mean, we have experts in here on some of these things, and so it seems to me that we should just take the opportunities as we're developing these other projects to learn about those things, so make it related instead of additional or supplemental.
That's actually a really, really good idea. What about, as we're rotating through the working group presentations, you know, month to month, just kind of alternating who it is. In that presentation month, the question is like, is there anybody that would be a good guest for us to have for the coming presentation or in coming months or whatever? So maybe thread that into those working group presentations. Yeah, that's a really, really good idea. I like it. Okay, I'm raising you to a degree, just so that we.
I hate to add something, but that reminded me that like. There's a lot of like 3 to 5 year stuff for everything but like the biodiversity working group. And so like, I think there's a lot of stuff that the Habitat Connectivity Plan and the B City certification can tie into like for the 3 to 5 year, like. So I think kind of like the climate action progress line, I think
Yeah.
maybe just like habitat progress, like actually starting to get buy-in after the plan is reestablished and actually trying to get pollinator projects going.
Yeah. Okay, I think I mean, that's almost like implicit at this point, yeah, it's a good one, and yeah, I do that does connect, like that is kind of where those two tie in together, so I think that participating in or contributing to or being aware of the progress here does connect right there. Cool. Light pollution initiatives, I think, we're talking about having a light pollution working group, having some research and next steps in place, so I think that that would be kind of a natural thing to start the road on. What do people think about that?
Well, that might also just kind of fall into the next one. You already wrote it there, but
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that might be the subcategory of it.
Cool, and that's a great problem. So we'll put light pollution under the city statuses as a priority, which is basically just seeing where Bloomington is, where we have opportunity, where we have opportunity to raise the bar a little bit for ourselves, stuff like that. I really like that. And these fall into that special projects. Okay, ECPC, Plan Commission, relationship stuff, we just talked about how we'll kind of see what we can do with that one. And then climate action in progress, generally speaking, that's supporting the biodiversity stuff, which goes in the biodiversity working group. I'm just gonna read this whole section. Oh my goodness. Beautiful. Okay. Okay, so having said all of this, we have a light pollution working group. We have a water quality working group. We have the liaison magic, a little heart there. We have biodiversity working group, and then we have special projects. In a perfect world, all of our commissioners would volunteer to be on one of these four. You can be on more than one. You can be on more than one, and while we're in meager numbers, it might help to do that, but it's more important that you not overstretch yourself, because as we all know, when we all get really busy and trying to be involved in everything, it's easy to not actually make progress. So I would rather 1 to 2 people on each one, not 1 to 2, 2 to 3 people on each, versus everyone saying they want to be on all of them and it just not being as effective. Having said that, light pollution, which is mostly like gonna be research and figuring out next steps. I'm gonna put Adam on this one before he can walk out of the door. Adam. Water quality is gonna be putting pieces together to do the report, talking to folks and getting some, and then potentially getting that buffer in place, buffer inventory in place. Oh, this is so smelly. The biodiversity is a bit heavier to lift just because we have a couple of very specific things that are materials on the website, the Bee City progress and habitat connectivity plan. So more there might be helpful to mix up who's taking which. And special projects is kind of getting our hands around what we're gonna do with status and certification funding. Do I have volunteers? Actually, I'm gonna just leave it open. Shout out if you would like me to put your name on a working group list.
Light pollution.
Mateo, like, light pollution. Okay? Yeah,
Biodiversity.
awesome.
Water and stuff.
What?
That's-
No way.
What? Okay,
I'm being water and biodiversity.
amazing.
You can put me down for special projects, you're great.
Awesome, thank you, Mitchell. Biodiversity, Dave. Okay,
Yeah, I guess I'll also do biodiversity, because I wanna help see habitat connectivity plan for.
yeah.
Where you think yourself?
I'm gonna put myself on biodiversity, special projects. And I'm not officially gonna sign up for either of those, but I will probably creep my way onto the light pollution one. Yes, we can see what's what. Any other signups right now? Not, I'll write Nadia in for all of them. For penalty for being gone now. Okay, so right now, the working groups are light pollution, Matt and Adam. Water quality, Mitchell and David. Biodiversity is Carrie, Shannon, David, and Matt. Special projects are Mitchell and myself. Cool.
Is there a chair for each group?
It would be really helpful if there was a chair for each group. Do we have a volunteer to chair the light pollution group? Oh my goodness. I was gonna be really bummed if not, like, I got it. You can be vice chair, perfect. So for water quality, we got Mitchell and David. Mitchell, I think that is great. For biodiversity, it's me, Shannon, Dave, and Matt. Anybody want to be kind of the point person for coordinating some stuff?
I can do it.
Yes. Amazing. And then for special projects. I'll do it for real this time, Mitchell. Alright, okay. So we have these things in place, which is super duper exciting, and Fiona and Rachel, obviously, we will keep you in the loop on how these are coming along. The next steps are, I would say, for Adam, Mitchell, Shannon, and myself, to maybe just do like a quick. Hey, special project, or biodiversity, whatever, working group buddies. We just had a conversation about plans, so let's figure out how we're gonna meet, when we wanna meet, what we're gonna do, moving forward. So if you don't have a note of who's in the different working groups that you're in, please note it, and then I'm sure we can send it out to minutes. But then the next step is figuring out when we wanna schedule our presentations throughout the calendar year, so that 1 month light pollution, we'll talk about whatever you want, and the idea would be that would be like a special presentation where it's like 15 minutes for you to have slides if you want, and ideally like action items, so like, here's what we're doing, here's what we need from EC right now, or here's resources that we're looking for, or here's people that we would like to invite to talk next time, or whatever, it's like, it's intended to be not just like, I'm gonna read off some paper, or I'm gonna say like, we don't have anything, it's how do we connect the working group to those priorities that we just talked about, to the bigger goals of who we are, and what we're doing, in an effort to create something that we can be really proud of and share with the community. So we have this adorable schedule here. I don't know if there's any particular order that we would make sense to do. Except for when Mitchell's not here, maybe not doing Mitchell's working groups in June. But we have 4 working groups, so 3 times a year or 2 times a year because we have other stuff going on. So yeah, I don't know if there's any particular rhyme or reason to do it one way or the other. Do folks have any preference on how we approach these? Because if not, I'm gonna go alphabetical.
Light pollution was thinking maybe May.
May, okay, I like it.
So also thinking that
That is,
if I can get an undergrad for the stream buffer thing, they would probably be good for the water quality group too, because that's when they have results and such.
Is May still in the calendar year, like the school year, I mean?
That I don't,
I don't think so,
Okay.
April would probably be better.
so,
It's not
okay,
under, I do.
but also if they're doing the capstone thing, then they would have,
Yeah.
if they do April, it'd probably mostly final results, and then usually for those capstone projects, they have to give like a presentation as their final thing, but we would all be invited to. So.
I mean, that's kind of cool, actually, if we do like do that in April, and then if there is a capstone or something, like what a cool thing for us to like support them back.
Yeah.
Cool, so April tentatively water quality.
What about May for biodiversity?
I think light pollution. holds
Yeah,
it.
well, it's got.
Okay, so
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I missed that. Okay, then I'll
Like-
then June, and just because I don't know, throwing 2 for this summer. Because of.
Okay, so May is light. April is water.
November's annual planning,
Annual,
and February is EC 101.
need to see, and so this is gonna be a working group. And
Unless you think elections for March will take up most of that. Okay.
elections
Why?
really don't take long, and I don't imagine EC 101 will take all that long either, actually.
yeah,
We can keep it open.
Yeah.
well, what if we do, because the biodiversity working group is one of the more established ones, what if we, or we can start in December? Biodiversity group. December, this December or January? Any thoughts
For a report,
for doing like just a, here's our status, and we're gonna like build it out as interestingly as possible? Yeah,
June is not an option.
June can be an option, but we're gonna probably do it twice a year, so. We do June.
June and December,
Of this year.
not of this year. I just don't think that we can actually do anything between.
Yeah.
I've basically given you the presentation for this past year.
But I mean, I think it could be like an opportunity for us to like more. In a more organized way, like get ourselves together and be like, here are the things that we're doing in the next 6
Actually,
months.
I mean, I could present this December, like, I have a lot of materials that I was working on through that other class, and I can say, here's the research I've done for the biodiversity working group, I know I've sort of failed in sort of getting us together, but like, now, it's your turn.
What do we think?
So, I mean, if you want that, I can do that for this December, but that's up to the new
Let's do
biodiversity.
that. We could also try to meet before then.
Yeah.
But it's Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's all the
holidays.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and do January. Because do we think we could meet before the January one?
Sometimes, not right now.
Yeah, and you feel like it's always good to be reminded of just like preparing calendars and operation throughout the year, throughout the school year, personal lives.
I will note at 7:57. Do we need to, is there any motion to extend the meeting time?
Or skip reports.
My motion is skip reports.
Okay, and it's for fast time. Is that okay with folks?
Still like a second and approve the motion, right or no?
I think we could vote on extending. No, we're not extending anything.
We can skip part of, do we need to vote to skip reports? I think I can change the agenda whenever I want, so we can just skip reports.
Is that all right with everyone? Actually, David, did you bring stuff for your reports?
Excuse me?
Did you bring like notes for your reports that you were going to share? We're trying to decide if we're going to just end at 8 right now, in a minute, and not your reports.
I've
Or
got a few notes, but nothing important,
are you
so,
sure?
yeah. The most important thing I wanted to tell you is that Second Street is likely to close down for several months. And possibly be one lane, but just be prepared for Second Street to close down, but that's something I found out at Tree Commission. It's not got much to do with tree part of Second Street.
Kind of, Hopewell neighborhood, by, Trades Building Park.
Well, it's much of Second Street, I was told, but
I think it goes all the way up to, it's like from College to, maybe, what is that? To Allen Patterson, so pretty.
yeah, I was told it was a pretty long
Yeah.
stretch, but yeah.
Okay, well then, I think we. Gonna be about one. Okay, well, we've got a couple of months, I'm trying to kind of stagger them appropriately, so. I know, I'm figuring out how to get the water quality and the license, Okay. Finalize this in the next meeting, how about that? I'll put this, well, let's finish this
I
here.
think having the first half of the year.
Yeah. Let's do that. Okay, so I'm gonna put. Is there improvement missing?
Special projects.
Special, thank you. Jeez Louise. Like subconsciously. Okay, so this is my recommendation, and we can adjust it if we're like, we need to have more opportunities, so there's 3 lights,
In, this is the, is
water.
Oh, okay. Neat, okay.
We can add something to easy one.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm gonna,
Alpine.
we're just gonna go with this and then we can revisit it, so.
Mitchell will be gone in February. Maybe.
Undergrad degree on University of Colorado.
We'll give water quality too then, and then if
Yeah.
you're ready for the report or something, we'll
pretty,
switch.
pretty good, needs to grow.
Okay, folks, we've done it. It's 8 o'clock. This is a ramshackle list of what we'll be doing the coming year, but, we can revisit it.
The
next
second,
week.
the
I think it's good. Do people feel comfortable with us calling this a wrap for the planning? It's a bit wild here at the end.
It's all planning all the time.
Did I hear a move for adjournment?
You did from Mitchell.
All right, well, thanks, folks.
Recording stopped.